Have you ever pondered what you would do if you were roused every night by an identical, enigmatic sound, yet remained utterly unable to ascertain its origin? At 62 years old, Michael Jordan believed he had confronted every conceivable challenge. 6 National Basketball Association championships, global renown, the relentless scrutiny of millions of fans. Yet nothing had adequately prepared him for the perplexing enigma that began to plague his pre-dawn hours in Highland Park. Picture this. Each night, at the precise identical hour, an occurrence defied all conventional logic. He deployed every conceivable countermeasure: security cameras, sophisticated motion detectors, cutting-edge surveillance systems. Still, nothing yielded results. For weeks on end, Jordan's sleep eluded him as he became utterly consumed by an anomaly that, while lasting mere seconds, was nonetheless eroding his entire existence. His burgeoning enterprises began to suffer. His capacity for concentration plummeted precipitously. He was rapidly becoming a captive of an enigma that appeared utterly insoluble. Yet what he ultimately unearthed upon finally deciphering the mystery would irrevocably transform his profound understanding of life's true imperatives. What, then, was the truth underpinning this inexplicable phenomenon? Why did it invariably manifest at the precise same hour? And what clandestine link did it bear to an event that had transpired months earlier, completely unbeknownst to Jordan? Prepare yourself to unearth a revelation that unequivocally demonstrates how life's most profound wisdom often emanates from the most improbable of origins. The Highland Park mansion loomed majestically against the dark Chicago sky, its 45,000 square meters of grounds protected by high walls and security cameras that blinked silently in the night. Michael Jordan, at 62 years old, paced the main living room, his footsteps echoing on the Italian marble floor as he monitored the security screens strategically placed beside the stone fireplace. His silvering temples gleamed under the soft light of the crystal chandeliers, and the muscles in his shoulders remained taut even beneath the dark silk robe he wore. The man who once dominated the basketball courts now confronted a mystery that defied all logic, an enigma that had begun precisely 21 days prior. His brown eyes, still as piercing as they had been in his athletic prime, fixed on the wall clock as its hands indicated 3:35 in the morning. 2 more minutes and it will ring again, Jordan murmured to himself, clenching his fists as he braced himself for yet another night devoid of answers. The main entrance doorbell had begun to chime punctually at 3:37 every night, a crystalline sound that permeated the mansion's corridors like an electronic phantom. Jordan had personally reviewed every security camera recording, analyzing frame by frame the footage captured by the state-of-the-art equipment installed in every corner of the estate. The high-definition lenses consistently showed the same scene: the empty entrance, the intact wrought iron gate, the gardens illuminated by automatic floodlights, yet no human or animal figure that could account for the disquieting sound. He ran his fingers through his graying hair, feeling the weight of accumulated exhaustion on his broad shoulders as he made his way to the gourmet kitchen to brew another cup of coffee he knew wouldn't help him sleep. The routine of the past few days had devolved into an obsessive ritual, waking to the sound of the doorbell, checking the cameras, finding nothing, and remaining awake until dawn, attempting to decipher the mystery. Perhaps it's time to call someone who understands things I don't, Jordan mused, recalling the tales of haunted houses his grandmother used to tell. The two men spent the entire morning testing every component of the mansion's security system, employing frequency detectors that scanned from radio waves to cellular phone signals. Thompson meticulously disassembled the doorbell system piece by piece, examining the copper wires that snaked through the reinforced concrete walls, verifying the electrical connections that had powered the mechanism for over a decade. His experienced fingers probed each solder joint, every contact point, every integrated circuit that comprised the mansion's complex communication system. Jordan observed every movement with meticulous attention, his hands clasped behind his back as he sought to comprehend the technical procedures that might elucidate the inexplicable phenomenon. The Chicago sunlight filtered through the tempered glass windows, casting geometric patterns across the marble floor as the two men labored in concentrated silence. Thompson connected oscilloscopes and spectrum analyzers to the doorbell wires, searching for any anomaly that could account for the phantom chimes that plagued the former player's nights. "The equipment shows no external interference," Thompson stated, knitting his brow as he observed the graphs on the monitors. "This is growing stranger with each passing minute." The afternoon morphed into a full-scale replacement operation for the doorbell system, with Thompson and a cadre of expert technicians dismantling every wire, every button, every speaker that constituted the original mechanism. They installed an entirely new system, boasting state-of-the-art digital technology, infrared motion sensors, and facial recognition cameras capable of identifying any visitor even before they approach the gate. Jordan remained present throughout the entire process, his keen eyes following each step of the installation while attempting to maintain the concentration required for a virtual meeting with Jordan Brand executives scheduled for 4 o'clock that afternoon. His hands trembled slightly as he typed replies to important emails, and he realized that the lack of sleep was beginning to impair his ability to make strategic business decisions. The brand bearing his name relied on his leadership, but how could he lead when he couldn't even unravel a mystery within his own home? "Mr. Jordan, the new system is installed and functioning flawlessly," Thompson informed him, testing the new doorbell button, which emitted a sound utterly distinct from its predecessor. "If anyone presses this doorbell, we will know precisely who it is." The ensuing weeks brought a mounting frustration that permeated every facet of Jordan's life, from his business meetings to his morning golf sessions at the exclusive Highland Park Club. He had replaced the doorbell system thrice, installed additional motion detectors, and hired security guards to patrol the property's perimeter during the early hours of the morning. Yet the sound persisted, echoing punctually at 3:37 every night. His golf course performance visibly deteriorated, with shots that were once precise now missing their mark by yards. Jordan Brand executives began to observe his irritability during meetings, his diminished concentration on marketing strategies, and his propensity to lose focus during important presentations. Thompson augmented the number of security cameras to 16 high-definition units, each capable of detecting motion within a 50-meter radius. Yet all continued to display the same disquieting image. "Nothing. This is driving me to distraction, Marcus," Jordan confessed during one of his morning strolls through the garden. "I can no longer sleep properly, and it's affecting every facet of my life." The 21st night arrived with a storm that lashed against the mansion's windows, Chicago's fierce winds buffeting the ancient trees encircling the estate. Jordan positioned himself strategically in the living room, with a direct view of the security monitor and an unobstructed line of sight to the main door through the panoramic windows. His hands clutched a mug of hot coffee as he watched the clock's hands creep inexorably toward the fateful hour. Thompson remained in constant radio contact, positioned at a strategic vantage point in the gardens, with night vision equipment and thermal detectors capable of identifying any human presence within a 100-meter radius. The rain created a constant din that obfuscated the normal nocturnal sounds, yet both men knew they would discern the doorbell's chime, even amidst the storm. The seconds seemed interminable as Jordan riveted his gaze on the security monitor's digital clock, mentally counting down the moments remaining until 3:37. "This time, we'll apprehend whoever it is," Jordan murmured, clenching his free fist as he braced himself to sprint to the door the instant the doorbell chimed. The sound of the doorbell reverberated through the mansion precisely at 3:37, but this time Jordan was prepared, surging toward the main door in under 10 seconds. His hands trembled as he disengaged the multiple security systems, and he swung open the heavy solid oak door, expecting finally to confront the architect of the enigma that had engrossed his last 3 weeks. The entryway stood empty as always, the rain sluicing the Portuguese stone paving as automatic floodlights illuminated every inch of the portico. Thompson emerged from the gardens with his detection gear, shaking his head negatively to signal that he had detected no human presence in the area. Jordan was on the verge of closing the door when his gaze alighted upon something small and colorful beneath the natural fiber doormat guarding the mansion's entrance. He knelt slowly, his large, careful hands extricating a folded piece of paper that had been shielded from the rain by the doormat's protrusion. The drawing was unmistakably the work of a child, rendered with crayons and simple strokes, depicting three smiling human figures: a tall man, a long-haired woman, and a small child clasping the adult's hands. "Thank you for saving my daddy," Jordan read aloud, his raspy voice echoing through the tempestuous night as Thompson drew near to examine the enigmatic drawing. The Jordan brand's Chicago headquarters spanned 3 floors of a contemporary skyscraper in the city's financial district, its expansive panoramic windows affording a breathtaking vista of Lake Michigan as the morning sun cast golden reflections upon the mirrored facades of adjacent buildings. Michael Jordan entered the executive boardroom promptly at 9 o'clock that morning, tenderly carrying the child's drawing within a clear archival sleeve that shielded the delicate paper from moisture and harm. Patricia Williams, his executive assistant for more than 15 years, was arranging documents on the polished mahogany conference table when she discerned the troubled expression etched upon her boss's face. The 52-year-old woman, her brown hair meticulously styled into an elegant chignon and gold-rimmed spectacles perched on her nose, had learned to interpret every subtle nuance of Jordan's body language over their years of collaboration. Her astute green eyes immediately registered the tension in his shoulders and the manner in which he clutched the archival sleeve with both hands, as if it contained something immensely valuable and inherently fragile. The surrounding office showcased a myriad of basketball trophies, historic photographs of the Chicago Bulls, and prototypes of the latest Air Jordan sneaker designs. But that morning, all attention gravitated toward the enigmatic drawing that might finally elucidate the weeks of restless nights. "Mr. Jordan, by the look on your face, I surmise something significant transpired during the pre-dawn hours," Patricia stated, adjusting her spectacles as her gaze settled on the clear sleeve in his hands. "Does this drawing have any connection to the mysterious doorbell?" Jordan placed the folder on the table with deliberate, measured movements, slowly unfurling it to reveal the colorful drawing he had discovered beneath his mansion's doormat only hours prior. Patricia leaned in to examine the paper, her eyes trained for detail, scrutinizing every crayon stroke, every figure rendered with the characteristic innocence of a young child. The message, scrawled in uneven capital letters, plainly stated, "Thank you for saving my daddy," accompanied by 3 smiling figures that clearly depicted a complete family. The vibrant hues contrasted with the drawing's inherent simplicity: a tall man clad in blue, a long-haired woman in yellow, and a small child at the center clasping the hands of both adults. Patricia retrieved a magnifying glass from her drawer and meticulously examined every detail of the paper, seeking additional clues that might reveal the young artist's identity. She noted that the paper was ordinary, the kind typically used in primary schools, and that the crayons were of the basic brand accessible to any child. The handwriting, though childish, exhibited a certain organization and care in letter formation, suggesting an intelligent and determined child. "This drawing is no mere childish prank, Mr. Jordan," Patricia observed, adjusting the magnifying glass for a closer examination of the details. "A child would not trek to your mansion in the dead of night merely to leave a random drawing." Patricia's analytical mind immediately sprang into action, connecting the drawing to Jordan's philanthropic endeavors, which she had meticulously managed for years. She navigated to the digital archives on her computer and opened the folder for the Michael Jordan Foundation, which contained detailed records of all donations and charitable projects undertaken over the past 5 years. Her nimble fingers scrolled through hundreds of documents, searching for recent cases that might correlate with the "Save My Daddy" message inscribed on the drawing. The foundation had funded medical treatments, emergency surgeries, educational programs, and community projects throughout the Chicago region, but Patricia knew she needed to focus specifically on medical cases involving fathers in critical situations. She accessed a spreadsheet that categorized donations by type and date, her eyes swiftly scanning the lines detailing each individual case. Jordan remained standing by the window, observing the bustle of Chicago's streets as he struggled to process the revelation that his mysterious doorbell was linked to his philanthropic endeavors. The irony of the situation was not lost on him. He had spent weeks disquieted by a sound apparently born of gratitude, not menace. "I found something interesting here," Patricia said, tilting the computer monitor for Jordan's better view. Over the past 6 months, we've funded 17 cardiac surgeries through Rush University Medical Center. The on-screen data revealed a succession of intricate medical cases the foundation had underwritten through collaborations with Chicago hospitals, specifically Rush University Medical Center, which specialized in highly complex cardiac procedures. Patricia clicked on each individual case, reading aloud the particulars of patients who had received costly treatments denied coverage by their insurers. There were instances of coronary bypasses, heart valve transplants, saphenous vein grafts, and experimental procedures representing the last recourse for critically ill patients. Jordan drew closer to the table and began perusing the names and ages of the patients, noting that many were young family men, laborers who had suffered premature heart attacks due to stress and arduous working conditions. Patricia arranged the files chronologically, establishing a timeline indicating when each surgery had been performed and its ultimate outcome. The majority of cases had been successful, with patients resuming normal lives after periods of convalescence, yet some records indicated complications and protracted treatments. Patricia opened a separate folder containing patient follow-up reports, documents delineating each individual's post-surgical progress and the treatment's impact on their families. "Mr. Jordan, observe these names," Patricia said, pointing to a specific roster on the screen. "We have at least 5 instances of family breadwinners who underwent emergency cardiac surgeries in the last 3 months." As Patricia continued her digital investigation, Jordan picked up his phone and called Marcus Thompson, explaining the discovery of the drawing and requesting that he review all security footage from the past few weeks, with a specific focus on 3:40 a.m. Thompson confirmed he would be at the mansion within the hour to conduct a frame-by-frame analysis of all recordings, utilizing motion detection software capable of identifying diminutive figures that standard cameras might have overlooked. Jordan hung up the phone and redirected his attention to Patricia, who had compiled a detailed presentation of the most relevant medical cases on her computer screen. She had isolated 7 specific cases involving parents of young children, all of whom had undergone complex cardiac surgeries funded by the foundation between January and April of the current year. Each case included patient photos, comprehensive medical reports, family information, and residential addresses Patricia had procured via hospital records. Jordan scrutinized each face, endeavoring to ascertain which of these men might be the father referenced in the child's drawing, which now lay on the table as a pivotal clue in unraveling the mystery that had consumed his life in recent weeks. "Patricia, specifically show me the cases involving young children," Jordan requested, leaning over the table to scrutinize the documents more closely. A child who draws like this must be between 6 and 8 years old. The data analysis revealed 3 particularly pertinent cases. Carlos Rodriguez, a 34-year-old mechanic with a 7-year-old son named Diego; Antonio Silva, a 38-year-old truck driver with a 6-year-old daughter; and Robert Johnson, a 42-year-old elementary school teacher with 8-year-old twins. Patricia printed the complete reports for each case, organizing them chronologically and highlighting the most salient information with colored markers. She generated a digital map showing the residential addresses of each family, noting that all resided in neighborhoods relatively close to Jordan's Highland Park mansion, yet would require considerable pedestrian travel for a young child. Jordan scrutinized each medical report with heightened scrutiny, delving into the intricate surgeries that had saved these men's lives and enabled their return to their families. Carlos Rodriguez's case garnered his particular attention. The man had suffered a massive heart attack while at work and required experimental bypass surgery costing $180,000. Patricia had highlighted a special note in the file indicating that Carlos had repeatedly inquired about the identity of the anonymous donor who had funded his surgery, displaying profound gratitude that could inspire extraordinary gestures of appreciation. "This Carlos Rodriguez case looks promising," Patricia remarked, gesturing towards the highlighted report. "He has a son of the right age, and the records show he was very keen to ascertain who had paid for his surgery." Jordan's phone rang mid-afternoon, and Marcus Thompson's voice sounded urgent through the speaker when he activated the hands-free mode so Patricia could follow the conversation. Thompson reported that he had reviewed all security footage from the past 3 weeks, utilizing specialized software that amplified images and detected minute movements that might have gone undetected during previous analyses. He had uncovered something significant. In the footage from 4 different nights, including the previous evening, the cameras captured a small figure moving in the property's shadows at precisely 3:40 a.m., 3 minutes after the doorbell rang. The figure was clearly a child, with an estimated height between 1 meter 10 centimeters and 1 meter 20 centimeters, moving swiftly through the gardens towards the main gate. Thompson explained that the child was intimately familiar with the camera's blind spots, suggesting they had scouted the property on multiple occasions before executing their plan. The images depicted the child approaching the main entrance, depositing something under the doormat, quickly ringing the doorbell, and then darting through the gardens toward the street. The quality of the nocturnal imagery did not permit clear facial identification, but the height and movements suggested a determined and agile child, likely a boy given their gait. Marcus, were you able to trace where this child went after leaving the estate? Jordan asked, his voice betraying a mix of awe and concern. A child walking alone at night in Chicago is exceedingly perilous. Thompson explained that he had partially managed to trace the child's path through security cameras on streets adjacent to the mansion, discovering that the child consistently followed the same route through Highland Park towards Chicago's south side. The boy demonstrated surprising familiarity with side streets and less monitored paths, eschewing main thoroughfares where his presence would be more readily detected by nocturnal police patrols. Thompson had devised a digital map illustrating the probable route, which indicated a walk of approximately 8 city blocks from the residential area near the addresses of the families Jordan and Patricia had identified. Patricia superimposed Thompson's map with the addresses of patients who had undergone cardiac surgeries, and the correlation was immediately apparent. The route led directly from the neighborhood where Carlos Rodriguez resided with his family. Jordan scrutinized the map with growing certainty that they had correctly identified the child behind the mystery, but his concern escalated upon realizing the risks a 7-year-old boy was undertaking to express his gratitude. The realization that a child was traversing Chicago alone in the dead of night to express thanks for saving his father's life deeply resonated with Jordan. Recalling his own challenging upbringing and the sacrifices he had made to achieve his aspirations. "Patricia, we need to contact this family immediately," Jordan stated, gazing at the map on the computer screen. "If our theory holds true, we must prevent this child from continuing to put himself at such risk." In the ensuing days, Patricia established a discreet monitoring system with Marcus Thompson to document any further activity around the estate, while Jordan grappled with the dilemma of how to approach the Rodriguez family without disclosing his prior investigation into their affairs. The following Thursday, their cameras again captured the diminutive figure traversing the grounds at 3:40 a.m. But this time, Jordan was prepared and rushed to the entrance to attempt to intercept the child. He arrived mere seconds too late, only to discover another drawing beneath the doormat, but managed to catch a fleeting glimpse of a small figure, quickly vanishing into the darkness beyond the gate. This second drawing was more intricate than the first, depicting a visual narrative that told a story. The first image showed a man lying in a hospital bed, surrounded by an array of machines. The second, a young child seated in a chair beside the bed. The third, doctors performing surgery. And the fourth, the family reunited and smiling once more. The colors were more vibrant and the details more precise, suggesting the child had invested considerable time and care in creating these drawings as a means of expressing their emotions. Jordan was profoundly moved upon realizing that each drawing narrated a segment of the story of how his donation had impacted a family, transforming a potential tragedy into a joyous outcome. "These drawings are beyond mere gratitude," Patricia observed the following morning, scrutinizing the second drawing with the same magnifying glass she had used for the first. "This child is telling the full account of how you saved their family." Over the subsequent week, 3 more drawings sporadically surfaced beneath the mansion's doormat, each adding fresh details to the visual narrative the child was constructing to express their appreciation. The third drawing showed the precise moment the father awoke in the hospital, with a poignant depiction of his eyes opening and a smile forming on his face. The fourth drawing portrayed the family walking together out of the hospital, with the father holding the hands of both the child and the mother. The fifth drawing depicted a celebration at home, featuring a dinner table where the family was reunited once more. Patricia photographically documented each drawing and compiled a comprehensive digital archive, arranging them chronologically to forge a coherent visual narrative of the family's experience during the medical crisis and subsequent recovery. Jordan kept the original drawings in his personal office, but had requested Patricia to make high-quality copies that could be permanently preserved. The artistic quality of the drawings progressively improved, suggesting the child was practicing and refining their skills specifically to create these works of gratitude. Each drawing included small details that revealed facets of the child's personality: a teddy bear beside the hospital bed, a bicycle in the yard of the family home, a book in the child's hands while awaiting surgery. "Patricia, these drawings are becoming progressively more sophisticated," Jordan commented, arranging the 5 drawings in sequence on his desk. "This child possesses genuine artistic talent and is using that talent to convey a story to me that I will never forget." The Rush University Medical Center loomed imposingly against the gray Chicago sky, its 20 stories of glass and steel reflecting the heavy clouds that promised an afternoon rain. Michael Jordan and Patricia Williams walked through the hospital's main lobby, their footsteps echoing on the polished marble floor as they observed the constant flow of doctors, nurses, and family members traversing the wide, well-lit corridors. The characteristic scent of hospital disinfectant mingled with fresh coffee from the cafeteria, creating a familiar atmosphere for Jordan, who had visited this hospital numerous times over the years for donation ceremonies and the inaugurations of wings funded by his foundation. Patricia carried a brown leather briefcase containing all the documents they had compiled regarding the pertinent medical cases, including copies of the 5 children's drawings that now formed a complete visual narrative of the Rodriguez family's experience. Their expressions were serious and resolute as they headed towards the elevator that would take them to the 12th floor, where the hospital's charity department coordinated special cases funded by private donors. Jordan adjusted his navy blue tie while they awaited the elevator, feeling a blend of anticipation and trepidation at the thought that he would finally learn the complete details of the family that had impacted his life so unexpectedly. The elevator bell chimed softly, and the stainless steel doors slid open, revealing a mirrored interior that multiplied their reflections as they ascended slowly toward the meeting that could definitively resolve the enigma that had consumed their recent weeks. "Patricia, after so many days of investigation, we are finally going to obtain concrete answers about who this courageous child is," Jordan commented, watching the floor numbers change on the digital display. "I trust we can devise a method to protect this boy without diminishing his genuine gratitude." Dr. Sandra Martinez awaited them in the reception area of the charity department, her elegant 55-year-old figure radiating the professional competence and human compassion that had established her as one of Chicago's most esteemed charity coordinators. Her graying hair was neatly gathered in a professional coiffure, and her brown eyes gleamed with the intelligence and dedication that typified physicians who dedicated their practice specifically to charitable endeavors. She wore an immaculate white lab coat over a dark blue ensemble, and her identification badge indicated over 20 years of service at Rush University Medical Center. Dr. Martinez greeted Jordan with a warm, professional handshake, expressing her gratitude for the Michael Jordan Foundation's sustained generosity in funding complex medical cases that saved the lives of patients lacking adequate financial resources. Her voice carried the soft cadence of someone raised in a Latino family in Chicago, and her demeanor evinced the confidence of a professional who had managed thousands of challenging cases throughout her career. Patricia keenly observed the interaction, noting how Dr. Martinez treated Jordan not merely as a renowned donor, but as a genuine partner in her mission to provide quality medical care to families in need. The doctor's office was adorned with photographs of successfully recovered patients, letters of gratitude from families, and certificates of recognition for her exceptional work in coordinating medical charity programs. "Mr. Jordan, it is always a pleasure to welcome you here at the hospital," Dr. Martinez stated, gesturing for them to take seats in the comfortable leather chairs across from her desk. "Patricia apprised me by phone that you are investigating a specific case related to your foundation and would like to review some of our recent files." Dr. Martinez's office afforded a panoramic view of downtown Chicago through expansive floor-to-ceiling windows, allowing natural light to illuminate the bookshelves replete with medical manuals, case reports, and administrative documents meticulously organized in colorful folders. Patricia opened her leather briefcase and carefully extracted the 5 children's drawings, arranging them chronologically on the doctor's desk to construct the complete visual narrative they had documented. Dr. Martinez leaned in, her professional gaze meticulously examining the drawings with mounting interest, analyzing not only their artistic content, but also the emotional and psychological ramifications each image unveiled regarding the child's experience during their family's medical crisis. She adjusted her reading glasses, focusing particularly on the drawing depicting the moment of surgery, noting how the child had portrayed the physicians as heroic figures in white capes, thus demonstrating a sophisticated grasp of the pivotal role medical professionals had played in saving their father's life. Jordan then elucidated how he had discovered each drawing beneath the doormat of his mansion, following mysterious doorbell rings at 3:37 in the morning, elaborating on the investigation he had conducted with Patricia to link the drawings to the medical cases funded by his foundation. The doctor listened intently, posing specific inquiries about the dates of the drawings and correlating them with the surgical records from the hospital during the same period. "These drawings are extraordinary," Dr. Martinez remarked, delicately tracing the edge of one of the papers. "The child who created them possesses a profoundly deep emotional understanding of what their family endured during the medical crisis, and is utilizing their art to process and convey gratitude in a truly poignant manner." Patricia then retrieved from the briefcase a printed list of medical cases they had identified as potential matches for the drawings, meticulously organized by surgery date, patient age, and family composition. Dr. Martinez immediately recognized several names on the list, having personally overseen many of these cases over the past few months, coordinating the requisite financial and medical particulars to ensure patients received the vital treatments they required. She proceeded to her digital archive and accessed the detailed records for each case, projecting the information onto a large screen mounted on the office wall, enabling Jordan and Patricia to review the data concurrently. The records revealed not only the medical particulars of each surgery, but also information pertaining to the patient's families, including notes on family visits, concerns voiced during consultations, and observations regarding the emotional toll each case had taken on the patient's loved ones. Dr. Martinez specifically highlighted 3 cases that perfectly aligned with the criteria Jordan and Patricia had established: male patients aged 30 to 40, complex cardiac surgeries funded by the foundation, and young children who had spent significant time at the hospital during treatments. Each case featured photographs of the patients and their families, taken during discharge ceremonies that celebrated the successful completion of their treatments. "Take a look at this case," Dr. Martinez said, gesturing towards a specific file on the screen. "Carlos Rodriguez, 34 years old, an automotive mechanic who works at a garage on Chicago's South Side, suffered a massive heart attack while repairing a truck engine on a particularly hot March afternoon." The details of Carlos Rodriguez's case began to unfold on the screen like a dramatic medical narrative that perfectly illustrated how Jordan's foundation had saved not just one life, but an entire family. Carlos had been brought to the hospital in critical condition after collapsing at his workplace, with his fellow mechanics performing cardiopulmonary resuscitation until the ambulance arrived. Initial examinations revealed extensive damage to the heart muscle, with multiple blocked arteries that necessitated immediate surgery to avert permanent damage or death. Carlos's health insurer, a low-cost company primarily serving auto mechanics, had denied coverage for the experimental bypass surgery necessary to save his life, claiming the procedure was prohibitively expensive and that less effective alternatives should be attempted first. Dr. Martinez explained that it was at that point that she had contacted the Michael Jordan Foundation, knowing that Jordan had expressed a particular interest in funding cardiac surgeries for Chicago workers who lacked access to proper treatment through their insurers. The total cost of the surgery had amounted to $180,000, encompassing the surgical procedure, post-operative intensive care, specialized medication, and cardiac physical therapy during his recovery. Patricia took meticulous notes as the doctor elucidated each facet of the case, constructing a timeline that illustrated how Jordan's donation had enabled Carlos to receive the precise treatment at the critical juncture when his life hung in the balance. Dr. Martinez continued, displaying photographs of the procedure and the medical team. Carlos remained in intensive care for 5 days, but his recovery proved remarkably swift and comprehensive, allowing him to return to work and his normal family life. The computer screen displayed a series of poignant photographs of the Rodriguez family during the period of hospitalization, revealing the anguish and subsequent jubilation they had experienced throughout Carlos's crisis and recovery. The first photo showed a young woman with dark hair, identified as Maria Rodriguez, seated beside the hospital bed with an expression of profound concern while clasping the hand of her unconscious husband. The second photo captured a more hopeful moment, Carlos awake and faintly smiling, surrounded by his wife and a young boy holding a teddy bear, identical to one that had appeared in a drawing discovered at Jordan's mansion. Subsequent photographs documented the progression of Carlos's recovery, showing him seated in bed, then walking through the hospital corridors with the aid of physical therapists, and finally signing his hospital discharge papers as his family beamed beside him. The final photograph in the sequence showed the Rodriguez family posing at the hospital entrance on the day of his discharge, with Carlos embracing his wife and son in a scene that precisely mirrored the final drawing Jordan had discovered beneath his doormat. Diego Rodriguez, identified in the photographs as Carlos's 7-year-old son, appeared as a small but perceptibly intelligent child, with expressive eyes that conveyed both the maturity compelled by the traumatic experience and the genuine joy at his father's return. Patricia discreetly cross-referenced the photographs with the drawings, visually confirming that Diego was unquestionably the artist behind the works of gratitude that had appeared at Jordan's estate. "This is unequivocally the boy we've been seeking," Patricia murmured to Jordan, subtly indicating Diego's photograph. "The resemblance between the family photographs and the drawings is unmistakable, and everything aligns perfectly with our investigation." Dr. Martinez proceeded to elaborate on the more profound facets of the Rodriguez case, unveiling details not accessible in the digital archives, but which she vividly recalled due to the emotional resonance the experience had instilled in the entire medical team. Carlos had arrived at the hospital in cardiac arrest and had been resuscitated 3 times during the initial night, with physicians toiling relentlessly to stabilize his condition before surgery could be performed. Maria and Diego had spent the first week virtually living at the hospital, sleeping in waiting room chairs, and partaking of sustenance only when compassionate nurses brought food from the cafeteria. Diego had profoundly impressed the entire medical staff with his precocity and unwavering resolve, refusing to return home even when relatives offered to care for him, steadfastly insisting he needed to remain close to his father to aid in his recuperation. During the most critical days, Diego had spent hours sketching on a pad of paper a nurse had provided, creating illustrations that chronicled his experience and processed his emotions throughout the family crisis. The doctor specifically recalled how Diego had repeatedly inquired about who had defrayed the cost of his father's surgery, demonstrating a sophisticated grasp that the family could not have borne the treatment expenses without external assistance. When the physicians explained that an anonymous benefactor had financed the surgery, Diego had immediately articulated a fervent desire to personally meet and express gratitude to the individual who had saved his father's life. The medical team had attempted to convey that anonymous donors typically preferred to maintain their anonymity, but Diego had adamantly insisted he would find a way to convey his appreciation, no matter how long it took. "Diego asked more questions about the anonymous donor than any child I've ever known," Dr. Martinez remarked, a faint smile gracing her lips as she recalled her conversations with the boy. "He wanted to ascertain every detail, where the person resided, how he might contact them, whether he could pen a thank you letter, absolutely everything he could conceive of." Hospital records indicated that Carlos had remained exceptionally curious about the identity of his benefactor throughout his recovery period, constantly posing inquiries to doctors, nurses, and administrators regarding who had made his life-saving surgery possible. Dr. Martinez elucidated that stringent policies were in place to preserve donor anonymity, but that Carlos had proven particularly persistent, going so far as to research medical donations in Chicago online in an attempt to identify potential benefactors. Diego had inherited this curiosity from his father and cultivated his own singular preoccupation with uncovering the identity of his family's savior, employing methods that impressed even the adults around him. The boy had begun to pose specific questions regarding the mechanics of medical donations, which organizations in Chicago funded surgeries, and how he might unearth information about individuals who assisted families such as his own. A nurse had casually mentioned that many medical donations in Chicago originated from renowned athletes and their philanthropic organizations. Information that Diego had processed with the characteristic resolve his family knew so well. The doctor recollected her astonishment at Diego's investigative prowess, as he had managed to procure astonishingly detailed information about various charitable foundations in Chicago simply by posing the right questions to the right individuals at the opportune moment. Carlos had voiced concern that Diego was becoming overly preoccupied with discovering the donor's identity, but he had also acknowledged pride in his son's demonstrated determination and gratitude. Carlos often told me that Diego was exceptionally resolute when he set his mind to uncovering something, Dr. Martinez explained, consulting her personal notes on the family. He stated that once Diego resolved to do something, nothing on earth could deter him until his objective was fulfilled. The conversation shed further light on facets of Diego's personality, explaining how a 7-year-old had managed to meticulously plan and execute his nocturnal visits to Jordan's mansion with uncanny precision. Dr. Martinez described Diego as an exceptionally astute and observant child who had demonstrated problem-solving abilities far exceeding his age during his father's medical crisis. Diego had committed to memory the schedules of all nursing shifts, learned the names of every physician involved in his father's case, and even devised his own meticulous agenda to track every facet of the recuperation. Once Carlos was finally discharged from the hospital, Diego had insisted on continuing his research into the anonymous donor, dedicating hours after school to pursue any conceivable clues regarding the individual who had saved his family. The doctor mentioned receiving multiple calls from Diego in the weeks following Carlos's discharge, with the boy posing increasingly specific inquiries about donation procedures and attempting to glean any additional intelligence that might lead him to his benefactor. Maria Rodriguez had contacted the hospital to apologize for Diego's persistent inquiries, but the medical staff, deeply moved by the boy's unwavering dedication, had endeavored to assist him within the confines of their privacy policies. Diego's tenacity had so profoundly impressed the professionals that several individuals had cited his case during staff briefings, giving rise to a local legend about the boy who would not relent until he personally conveyed his gratitude to the individual who had saved his father. The last time Diego called the hospital was 2 weeks ago, Dr. Martinez stated, consulting her notes. He had uncovered information about the Michael Jordan Foundation and wanted to know if we had any connection to donations stemming from that specific source. Dr. Martinez's ultimate disclosure seamlessly connected all the disparate threads of the investigation Jordan and Patricia had diligently pursued over the past few weeks, unequivocally establishing that Diego Rodriguez was indeed the child responsible for the enigmatic sketches and the persistent doorbell chimes that had disturbed Jordan's nights. The doctor explained that Diego had devised an elaborate strategy to ascertain the identity of his benefactor, employing information garnered from a multitude of sources, including online public records, conversations with hospital personnel, and extensive research into active charitable foundations in Chicago. Diego had cross-referenced donation timestamps with lists of active foundations, had diligently researched the addresses of prominent individuals in Highland Park, and had even visited the public library to utilize its computers when his home research proved insufficient. The boy's unwavering determination had ultimately led him to the address of Jordan's mansion, where he had formulated the plan to ring the doorbell at precisely 3:37, the exact moment his father had regained consciousness after surgery and uttered, "Hi, champ," his initial post-operative words following the life-saving procedure. Patricia meticulously documented every facet of this narrative, constructing a comprehensive picture of how a 7-year-old had managed to conduct an investigation that had impressed even seasoned professionals. Jordan was profoundly moved upon realizing that each doorbell ring had been Diego's attempt to recreate the most significant moment of his father's recovery, transforming a sound that had been a source of frustration into a potent symbol of gratitude and familial affection. Dr. Martinez, we must devise a method to locate Diego and his family, ensuring his safety in the process, Jordan said, his voice laden with emotion. A child should not be compelled to jeopardize their safety merely to express gratitude, regardless of the poignancy of their gesture. Gibson's Steakhouse held a coveted position in the heart of Chicago, its elegant interiors of dark wood and rich brown leather creating an ambiance of understated sophistication that had drawn a distinguished clientele including celebrities, political figures, and prominent business magnates for over 3 decades. Michael Jordan had reserved the second-floor private dining room, an intimate space designed to accommodate up to 8 guests, providing complete privacy through frosted glass partitions and acoustic insulation that would facilitate an uninhibited conversation free from external distractions. The maitre d' had meticulously prepared the circular table with the establishment's exquisite fine china, including bohemian crystal stemware and burnished silver flatware that gleamed under the soft illumination of the bronze chandeliers suspended above. Jordan arrived a full 30 minutes ahead of schedule, donning an elegant yet understated navy suit, specifically chosen not to intimidate a working-class family that had likely never before frequented an establishment of such caliber. A slight tremor ran through his hands as he adjusted his tie for the 5th time, experiencing a blend of anxiety and anticipation he hadn't felt since his professional playing days, prior to pivotal playoff games. Patricia had coordinated every detail of the rendezvous through Dr. Martinez, ensuring the Rodriguez family would feel at ease and that Diego would not be overawed by the venue's formality. The restaurant's maitre d', apprised of the meeting's special nature, had been instructed to be discreet and attentive without being intrusive, allowing the family the necessary privacy for a conversation Jordan knew would irrevocably alter his life. I hope this is the answer we've all been searching for, Jordan mused, as he gazed out the private room's window, awaiting the arrival of the family who had so profoundly impacted his life. Finally, I'll meet the courageous boy who traversed Chicago in the pre-dawn hours simply to thank me. Carlos Rodriguez entered Gibson's private dining room, leading his son Diego by the hand, both attired in their finest clothes which, though modest, were impeccably clean and meticulously arranged for the special occasion. Carlos wore a long-sleeved white shirt that Maria had ironed thrice to ensure not a single crease remained, paired with dark trousers and leather shoes he had buffed to a mirror-like sheen. Diego was clad in a light blue shirt that accentuated his expressive dark eyes, khaki trousers, and pristine white sneakers clearly reserved solely for momentous occasions. The boy clutched a manila folder under his arm, his small fingers pressing it tightly against his body as if it contained the world's most precious treasure. Carlos paused at the room's threshold, his eyes surveying the opulent surroundings before settling on Jordan, who immediately rose from his chair and advanced toward the family with a warm, welcoming smile. Jordan's imposing height, even at 62, remained striking, yet his demeanor and facial expression conveyed a profound kindness and a genuine interest in connecting with the individuals who had become so significant in his life. Diego gazed upward, his large eyes widening as he instantly recognized the man he had sought for weeks, the hero who had saved his father and ensured his family could remain whole. Emotion was palpable in the air as 3 generations met face to face for the first time, each carrying their own expectations and gratitude for this moment, which had been meticulously forged through weeks of mystery, investigation, and unwavering determination. Mr. Jordan, I can't believe we're finally here, Carlos articulated, his voice slightly tremulous with emotion as he extended his hand to greet the man who had saved his life. Diego hasn't ceased talking about this moment since Dr. Martinez first contacted us. The handshake between Jordan and Carlos lingered for several seconds, both men studying each other as they processed the profound reality of the encounter that had been orchestrated by a determined 7-year-old boy who had steadfastly refused to accept the anonymity of his benefactor. Jordan knelt to meet Diego's eye level, closely observing the intelligent and expressive face of the child who had traversed Chicago in the early hours of the morning to convey his gratitude. Diego's eyes shone with a mixture of admiration, nervousness, and resolve. And Jordan could immediately discern the exceptional intelligence that had enabled the boy to plan and execute his nocturnal visits with a precision that had impressed even seasoned security professionals. Diego opened his manila folder and carefully withdrew a drawing, larger and more elaborate than any of his previous works. This piece was clearly created specifically for this momentous meeting, representing weeks of dedicated artistic labor. The drawing depicted Jordan as a heroic figure in a basketball uniform, enveloped by golden rays of light, extending his hand toward a family being embraced by a protective glow emanating from his very presence. The colors were vibrant and the details intricate, clearly demonstrating that Diego had invested not only considerable time, but also his family's limited resources to acquire higher quality art supplies for this truly special creation. Jordan took the drawing in both hands, handling it with the reverence he would accord a priceless historical document. As his eyes welled up with tears he struggled to control. "Diego, this drawing is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me," Jordan said, his voice thick with emotion as he scrutinized every detail of the artwork crafted specifically for him. "You possess an extraordinary talent, and I can see all the love you poured into this work." The three settled themselves at the circular table, with Diego seated between his father and Jordan, his posture erect and attentive, demonstrating the gravity with which he regarded this meeting he had worked so diligently to make possible. The waiter discreetly brought a special children's menu for Diego and regular menus for the adults, but Jordan suggested they order simple dishes so they could focus on their conversation without unnecessary distractions. Diego immediately reopened his folder and extracted a handwritten list of questions he had prepared for Jordan, his carefully formed lettering revealing the time and effort he had dedicated to preparing for this moment. Jordan was struck by the organization and maturity evinced by a child who had clearly treated this encounter as an important mission requiring proper preparation. Carlos watched his son with palpable pride, but also with paternal concern about how Diego would react upon finally meeting the man he had idolized during weeks of determined investigation. The atmosphere in the room was charged with emotion and anticipation, with each person present cognizant that this encounter represented far more than a mere social gathering. Jordan ordered water for everyone and suggested they begin with Diego recounting his version of the story, eager to hear directly from the child how he had managed to uncover his identity and why he had chosen to visit his mansion in such a creative and determined manner. "Diego, I am very keen to hear how you discovered where I lived," Jordan said, leaning slightly toward the boy to convey his undivided attention. That must have taken a great deal of detective work to uncover that information. Diego straightened himself in his chair and began to recount his investigation with the precision of a professional presenting a detailed report. His words meticulously chosen and his narrative logically structured, which impressed Jordan with the maturity and intelligence he displayed. The boy explained that he had started by inquiring with nurses and doctors about the mechanics of medical donations, discovering that many originated from charitable foundations operated by famous individuals in Chicago. He had researched active foundations in the city online, at the public library, compiled a list of potential donors, and cross-referenced this information with the amounts and timing of donations that coincided with his father's surgery. Diego disclosed that he had uncovered information about the Michael Jordan Foundation through newspaper articles detailing previous medical donations. He had researched the address of the mansion in Highland Park via online public records, and had even studied street maps to devise the safest route for his nocturnal visits. His explanation included details on how he had selected specific timings to circumvent police patrols, how he had observed security camera patterns over several nights before acting, and how he had meticulously planned every aspect of his visits to maximize his chances of delivering his drawings undetected. Jordan listened with escalating fascination, realizing he was hearing the account of an intelligence operation executed by a 7-year-old with a level of determination and skill that surpassed many adults. Carlos shook his head with a mixture of pride and apprehension, clearly impressed by his son's capabilities, but also disquieted by the risk Diego had undertaken. "Daddy always told me that when you truly want to thank someone, you find a way," Diego explained, looking alternately at his father and Jordan. "I knew you had saved my daddy, so I had to find a way to thank you in person." The most poignant explanation came when Diego described why he had specifically chosen 3:37 in the morning to ring Jordan's doorbell, revealing a profound emotional connection that neither adult had anticipated. Diego recounted that exactly 3 hours and 37 minutes was the precise time marked on the wall clock in the intensive care unit when his father had first opened his eyes after surgery and whispered, "Hi, champ," the affectionate term Carlos had used to address Diego since he was a baby. The boy explained he had committed that moment to memory because it represented the precise instant he knew his father would survive and that their family would remain whole. Diego had decided that 3:37 would be the gratitude hour, the perfect time to thank Jordan because it signified when his donation had truly materialized in the lives of the Rodriguez family. Jordan was profoundly moved to realize that every doorbell chime that had disrupted his sleep was intrinsically linked to the most pivotal moment in a child's life, the instant they knew they wouldn't lose their father. Carlos corroborated Diego's account, explaining that "Hi Champ" had been his special greeting for Diego since the boy was very young, and that those were indeed the first words he managed to utter after regaining consciousness from the surgery. The revelation utterly transformed Jordan's perception of the mysterious doorbell rings, shifting them from a source of vexation to a potent symbol of familial love and genuine gratitude. "I chose 3:37 because that's when Dad said, 'Hi, champ,' after the surgery," Diego stated, his eyes shining with the memory of that pivotal moment. "I wanted you to know it was precisely at that instant our family was truly saved." Diego then proceeded with his narrative, elucidating the practical aspects of his nocturnal journeys, which had necessitated meticulous planning and extraordinary courage for a child his age. He divulged that he had thoroughly studied detailed maps of the route between his Southside home and Jordan's Highland Park mansion, identifying secondary streets and less illuminated paths that would minimize his chances of being seen by adults who might question his solitary presence on the streets in the pre-dawn hours. Diego had practiced the walk during the daytime on weekends, meticulously timing precisely how long it would take to reach the mansion, accomplish his mission, and return home before his parents awoke. He explained that he had begun waking naturally at 2:15 in the morning, affording him ample time to dress silently, leave the house without disturbing anyone, undertake the 8-block walk to Highland Park, deliver his drawing and ring the doorbell, and return before 5 o'clock in the morning when his mother typically awoke to prepare breakfast. Diego had devised specific strategies to evade detection, including wearing dark clothing, carrying a small flashlight solely for emergencies, and consistently following the identical routes he had meticulously committed to memory. Jordan was simultaneously impressed by Diego's demonstrated ingenuity and meticulous planning, yet also apprehensive about the immense risks a child had undertaken to convey gratitude. Carlos disclosed that he had not suspected Diego's nocturnal activities until Dr. Martinez had contacted them, explaining that Diego had always been a heavy sleeper and that no one in the family had noticed his absences. "I practiced the walk 5 times during the day to ensure I could manage it in the dark," Diego stated with palpable pride in his voice. "I knew I had to be exceedingly careful because Mom would be deeply concerned if she discovered I was venturing out alone." The conversation took a more profound turn when Carlos began to divulge details about his medical experience that he had not even discussed with his wife, revealing facets of the crisis that rendered Jordan's donation even more significant than anyone had previously realized. Carlos explained that he had been clinically deceased on the operating table for 4 minutes during an unforeseen complication, when his heart had completely ceased functioning and physicians had been compelled to perform advanced cardiopulmonary resuscitation to revive him. During those 4 critical minutes, Carlos had experienced something he described as a vision, where he witnessed Diego growing up without a father, struggling through adolescence and adulthood, devoid of paternal guidance, and confronting all of life's hardships as a young Latino in Chicago, without the support and protection that only a father could provide. The vision had been so vivid and distressing that when Carlos finally regained consciousness hours later, his primary concern was not his own medical condition, but rather ensuring that Diego would know how profoundly he was loved and that their family would remain cohesive. Carlos disclosed that he had asked the physicians to be completely forthright about his chances of survival, and that Dr. Martinez had explained that without the experimental surgery funded by Jordan's foundation, his prospects of surviving beyond a week were virtually nil. The realization that Diego had been mere days away from becoming an orphan lent an entirely new dimension to the family's profound gratitude and to the significance of the donation Jordan had made almost inadvertently as part of his routine philanthropic endeavors. "Mr. Jordan, I need you to understand that you didn't merely save my life," Carlos uttered, his voice cracking slightly with emotion. "You spared my son from growing up fatherless, saved my wife from becoming a widow in her 30s, and shielded our entire family from a tragedy that would have irrevocably altered the trajectory of our lives." Carlos's ultimate revelation struck Jordan like a visceral emotional blow that rendered him momentarily speechless, compelling him to confront the profound and palpable impact his charitable contributions had on the lived realities of actual families. Jordan had always regarded his philanthropy as a significant yet abstract responsibility, issuing checks for meritorious causes without necessarily envisioning the specific faces and stories behind the figures and clinical assessments. The physical presence of Diego and Carlos, the detailed recounting of their experiences, and the realization that a child had risked his personal safety to express gratitude for something Jordan had done almost automatically, fundamentally reshaped his comprehension of what it truly meant to be a philanthropist. Jordan gazed upon Diego, perceiving not merely an intelligent and courageous child, but a son who had been mere days from losing his father permanently, and who could now flourish with the security and love that only an intact family could afford. A wave of profound emotion washed over Jordan as he grappled with the realization that his decision to fund a surgery had literally dictated whether Diego would grow up with or without a father, whether he would learn to play basketball with Carlos or be forced to navigate adolescence as an orphan. The tears Jordan had been fighting to control throughout the entire conversation finally began to stream down his face as he absorbed the true magnitude of what had transpired and how an administrative decision made in his office had escalated into a matter of life or death for the very individuals now seated before him, expressing a gratitude that had quite literally transformed their lives. "Diego, I need you to know that you taught me something profoundly important today," Jordan said, his voice trembling with emotion as he held the boy's small hand. "You showed me that when we help others, we're not just altering figures on medical reports. We're transforming real lives and real families in ways I had never fully grasped until I met you." The United Center loomed like a modern colossus in downtown Chicago, its 21,000 seats forming an arena where Jordan had forged his legend during the golden era of the Chicago Bulls. Diego Rodriguez held Jordan's hand tightly as they walked through the exclusive corridors leading to the private suite, his wide eyes absorbing every detail of the arena he had only ever seen on television during Sunday broadcasts. The boy carried his familiar manila folder under his free arm, but this time he was visibly more relaxed, his posture reflecting the growing confidence he had developed during their meeting at Gibson's the previous week. Jordan observed Diego's reactions with fascination, recalling his own first experience in a professional arena decades earlier, when he was merely a young dreamer from North Carolina who could scarcely imagine one day owning a suite in this very building. The hallway was adorned with historic Bulls photographs, including several images of Jordan during his years of glory, and Diego periodically paused to study each photograph with the detailed attention of an art student examining masterpieces in a museum. The boy's excitement was infectious, and Jordan felt a surge of nostalgia mixed with gratitude as he realized how this unexpected relationship was bringing new perspective and joy into his post-basketball life. The swelling roar of the crowd echoed through the walls as the 20,000 spectators settled into their seats, creating an atmosphere of anticipation that Diego had never personally experienced. "Mr. Jordan, I can't believe I'm actually here where you used to play," Diego said, stopping in front of a photo of Jordan making a historic dunk. "My father always recounted tales of you, but being here feels like stepping into a dream made manifest." Jordan's private suite afforded a pristine view of the court, strategically situated at center line and elevated just enough to offer a panoramic perspective of all the action, yet retaining the intimacy conducive to private conversation. Diego immediately darted towards the glass partition separating the suite from the arena, pressing his face against the pane to observe the Bulls players warming up on the court below. Jordan ordered sodas and popcorn for both, aiming to foster a casual and comfortable atmosphere where Diego felt uninhibited in expressing his excitement. The suite was appointed with plush leather armchairs, a large screen television capable of displaying replays and statistics, and a small table where Diego promptly set down his portfolio, all the while continuing to absorb the sheer magnitude of the experience. Jordan settled beside Diego, pointing out specific players on the court and elucidating basic basketball strategies to help the boy more fully grasp what he was about to witness. The energy within the arena was palpable even prior to the official tip-off, with booming music, elaborate light displays, and the player introductions culminating in a multi-sensory spectacle that unequivocally surpassed all expectations Diego had formed based on television broadcasts. Jordan observed Diego's every reaction with genuine delight, perceiving how the child's innocence and effervescence were reigniting his own enduring passion for the sport that had defined his life for 2 decades. "Diego, what do you make of all this energy and excitement you're experiencing right now?" Jordan inquired, gesturing towards the roaring multitude as the players were introduced. "This is precisely how I felt every single time I set foot on this court, as if all that pervasive energy bestowed upon me superpowers." The game commenced with characteristic Bulls intensity, and Diego became utterly mesmerized by the sheer velocity and athleticism of the professional players executing maneuvers that seemed to defy the very laws of physics. During the first time out, Diego unzipped his portfolio and produced a fresh collection of drawings he had meticulously crafted specifically for this encounter, each piece more elaborate and intricately detailed than any prior artwork Jordan had ever witnessed. The first drawing depicted Jordan clad in a traditional Bulls uniform, but with a superhero cape billowing dramatically behind him as he cradled a luminous heart in his outstretched hands towards a small family in the background. Diego had utilized metallic-colored pencils to render special effects around Jordan's figure, making him appear to literally radiate light and power akin to a comic book character. The second drawing portrayed Jordan soaring through the Chicago sky, not on a basketball court, but rather brandishing a colossal medical bag while families across the city gazed skyward with hope and profound gratitude. The third and most striking illustration showcased Jordan transfigured into a basketball angel, with wings fashioned from golden basketballs and a halo that seemed to emanate small, colorful hearts raining down upon hospitals dispersed throughout the city. Jordan scrutinized each drawing with burgeoning admiration, not merely for the artistic prowess Diego was rapidly cultivating, but for the emotional depth and profound symbolism a 7-year-old was managing to convey through his artistry. Each image narrated a story about how Diego perceived Jordan not solely as a celebrated athlete, but as a genuinely transformative force who leveraged his success to engender miracles in the lives of ordinary individuals. "Diego, these drawings are utterly extraordinary," Jordan remarked, carefully cradling the basketball angel drawing. "You've drawn me as a superhero, but I need to tell you a secret about how I truly came to be who I am today." During the second quarter of the game, as the Bulls executed a series of spectacular plays that kept Diego on the edge of his seat, Jordan began to share facets of his childhood he seldom discussed publicly, fostering an intimacy and trust that transformed the skybox into a sanctuary for mutual vulnerability. Jordan recounted to Diego his upbringing within a working-class family in North Carolina, where his father was employed as an electrician and his mother as a bank teller, and how they strove to provide opportunities for Jordan and his siblings to pursue their aspirations. He recounted how he had been cut from his high school basketball team during his sophomore year, a rejection that could have prematurely ended his athletic aspirations, but which instead galvanized him to strive even harder to prove he merited a second chance. Jordan detailed the countless hours spent practicing alone on deserted courts, the sacrifices his family had made to finance equipment and tournament travel, and how basketball became not merely a sport, but a means of escape and transformation that lifted him out of poverty and propelled him toward universities and opportunities that had seemed unattainable for a child of his background. Diego listened to every word with captivated attention, posing incisive questions that evinced his processing of the parallels between Jordan's narrative and his own experience of leveraging determination to surmount seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Jordan's candor regarding his struggles and insecurities forged an emotional bridge between them that transcended the disparity in age and social standing, laying a foundation of mutual respect and genuine understanding. I was recounting this story because I want you to grasp that I wasn't born a superhero, Jordan explained, gesturing toward Diego's drawings. I became who I am today because I learned that when you truly aspire to achieve something significant, you find a way to make it happen, precisely as you did when you resolved to find me. The third quarter brought forth an offensive surge from the Bulls that had Diego shouting with glee and cheering with an enthusiasm that rivaled even the most fervent fans in the arena. Yet it was during a timeout that the conversation took an even more profound and personal turn. Jordan elucidated to Diego how he had come to realize that the true essence of success lay not in the trophies or records he had amassed during his playing career, but rather in the capacity to leverage his platform and resources to positively impact the lives of others in ways that truly mattered. He recounted the first time he had donated funds for a medical surgery and how he had felt detached and remote from the family he had assisted, as everything had been processed through lawyers and administrators, and how the experience with Diego had revealed to him what he was forfeiting by maintaining a distance from the individuals his philanthropy was benefiting. Jordan explained that Diego's determination to find him and thank him personally had shattered a barrier he hadn't even realized existed, connecting him directly with the tangible human impact of his donations, in a way no financial report or formal letter of thanks ever could. Diego absorbed this information with the gravitas of someone far older, posing questions about how Jordan intended to leverage this newfound understanding to enhance his charitable endeavors in the future. The exchange proved transformative for both. Jordan gaining a profoundly new perspective on the significance of his philanthropy, and Diego learning that even individuals of extraordinary accomplishment continue to grow and learn through their interactions with others. "Diego, you've shown me something no counselor or book ever could," Jordan said, gently touching the boy's shoulder. "You've shown me that true gratitude and genuine human connection are far more potent than anything I've ever achieved playing basketball." During the climactic final quarter, as the Bulls clinched a thrilling victory that brought the entire arena to its feet in roaring applause, Jordan and Diego cultivated a natural mentor-protege dynamic that seemed to have forged over years rather than weeks. Diego posed questions about game strategies that evinced a surprisingly sophisticated grasp of basketball's technical intricacies, while Jordan offered insights gleaned from decades of professional experience that few fans would ever have the privilege of hearing directly from a sports legend. Between explanations of basketball, they delved into broader topics concerning determination, diligence, and how to transmute obstacles into opportunities for personal growth. Jordan was struck by Diego's ability to draw parallels between basketball lessons and real-life situations, including how his father's medical journey had instilled in him perseverance, and how his quest to find Jordan had honed his problem-solving skills. The effortless rapport they shared, despite the significant disparity in age and experience, fostered an atmosphere of genuine camaraderie that both knew had blossomed into something special and enduring. Jordan discerned that Diego possessed not only exceptional intellect, but also an emotional maturity and astuteness that rendered him a fascinating and inspiring conversationalist. The blend of childlike innocence with wisdom beyond his years forged a unique perspective that was profoundly impacting how Jordan viewed both his own life and his responsibilities as an influential public figure. "Mr. Jordan, watching this game with you is better than any birthday gift I've ever received," Diego said, his eyes gleaming with unadulterated joy. "But the best part isn't the players or the arena. It's being able to talk with you about important matters." When the game concluded with a decisive victory for the Bulls, Jordan and Diego remained in the skybox as the crowd gradually dispersed, creating a moment of intimacy that enabled a pivotal discussion about the future of their relationship. Jordan explained to Diego that he had been profoundly moved by the entire experience, from the enigmatic drawings to this unforgettable game, but that he was genuinely concerned for the boy's safety and needed to ensure that Diego would never again jeopardize his safety by walking alone through the streets of Chicago in the dead of night. Jordan used language that Diego could readily comprehend, explaining that while he deeply admired the courage and resolve Diego had demonstrated, dangerous individuals lurked on the streets at night who could harm a child, and that part of being courageous was also being judicious about when and how to take risks. Diego listened gravely, clearly grasping the genuine concern in Jordan's voice, and pledged that he would never again leave home unaccompanied at night without his parents' permission and knowledge. Jordan then made a promise that illuminated Diego's face. They would continue to meet regularly, not just for basketball games, but for activities that would allow them to cultivate their friendship in a safe and positive manner. Jordan suggested they could meet for monthly lunches, occasional visits to the hospital, where Diego could observe how other families were being assisted by the foundation, and perhaps even some sessions where Diego could impart more knowledge about art to Jordan, while Jordan instructed Diego in basketball. "Diego, I promise we'll remain friends, but you need to promise me you'll never walk alone on the streets at night again," Jordan said, extending his hand for a formal handshake. "Being brave also means being smart about protecting your safety, okay?" Diego's response was immediate and enthusiastic, but it also included a request that surprised Jordan with its thoughtfulness and implications for how their new friendship could expand beyond just the two of them. Diego quickly accepted Jordan's promise of future meetings and solemnly guaranteed he would never again risk his safety with late-night adventures, but then asked if Jordan would consider visiting his elementary school to meet his friends and perhaps speak to his class about perseverance and pursuing their dreams. Diego explained that he had told his classmates about meeting Jordan, but some of them didn't believe a regular kid from the South Side could really develop a friendship with a famous celebrity. He wanted Jordan to meet his friends not to show off, but because he believed other children in his neighborhood could benefit from hearing Jordan's story about overcoming obstacles and using success to help others. Diego also mentioned that his teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, no relation to his family, had expressed interest in having Jordan as a guest speaker if he were ever willing to visit. Jordan was touched by the maturity of Diego's request and by how the boy was already thinking about how their friendship could positively impact other children in his community. The suggestion also gave Jordan an opportunity to see Diego in his own environment and to better understand the daily reality of the boy's life in a way that an exclusive skybox at the United Center could never provide. "Mr. Jordan, would you visit my school to meet my friends?" Diego asked, his voice full of hope and excitement. "I think other kids in my neighborhood need to hear that dreams can really come true if you work hard enough to make them happen." Benito Juarez Elementary School on Chicago's South Side teamed with an extraordinary energy that had completely transformed the usual academic environment into a celebration resembling a community festival. Jordan arrived precisely at 9 o'clock on Friday morning, personally navigating his vehicle through the familiar thoroughfares of the working-class neighborhood where Diego resided, observing the unassuming yet meticulously maintained homes that line the tree-lined avenues. The two-story red brick school building, a fixture from the 1950s, had been festooned with vibrant banners and handcrafted posters boldly proclaiming "Welcome Michael Jordan" in colossal lettering, with basketball motifs emblazoned across every available surface. Hundreds of students, educators, and parents had congregated in the schoolyard, cultivating a festive atmosphere that rivaled the community's most significant annual events. Jordan donned a casual navy suit, eschewing a tie, specifically selected to appear approachable and non-intimidating to children who had likely never interacted with a celebrity of his stature. Diego waited expectantly at the main entrance, clad in his finest shirt and trousers, his eyes gleaming with pride and anticipation as he watched his personal hero stride towards the school, which had become the focal point of the entire neighborhood's attention. Principal Martinez, a Latina woman in her 50s, possessing decades of experience educating Southside children, greeted Jordan with profound gratitude and a smile that mirrored her understanding of the immense significance this event held for her students. "Mr. Jordan, in my 25 years as an educator, I have never witnessed our children so enthused about a school event," Principal Martinez stated, gesturing towards the assembled students. "Diego hasn't ceased talking about you since he learned of your impending visit, and has quite simply imbued the entire school with his infectious enthusiasm." Diego darted towards Jordan the moment he passed through the school's main gate, clutching his legs with the unreserved familiarity of a child who had forged a genuine bond with an adult he profoundly respected. Jordan knelt to meet Diego at eye level, noting how the boy had visibly blossomed in confidence and maturity during the weeks since their initial encounter at Gibson's restaurant. Diego took Jordan's hand and guided him through the school courtyard, proudly introducing him to his teachers, classmates, and family members who had come specifically to meet the man Diego described as his personal hero. The boy had prepared a formal presentation to introduce Jordan to his class, practicing his words for weeks to ensure he would adequately convey his gratitude and explain why this man was so important to his family. Jordan was impressed by Diego's preparation and organization, recognizing how the boy had matured even further since their last encounter and how he was assuming a leadership role among his peers. The atmosphere in the school courtyard was festive yet respectful, with children asking polite questions and adults expressing genuine gratitude for Jordan's willingness to visit a community school on the South Side, instead of more prestigious institutions that typically hosted celebrity visits. Jordan answered each question with patience and genuine interest, recalling his own childhood and how he would have felt if a famous figure had visited his school when he was a child. "Diego, you've become a true leader here at your school," Jordan observed, noting how other students gathered around Diego seeking his guidance. "I can see you're inspiring your friends in the same way you inspired me when we first met." The main presentation took place in the school gymnasium, where the entire student body of 350 students gathered on makeshift bleachers to hear Jordan speak on his chosen topic, how small acts of kindness can change the world. Diego had specifically requested this topic because he wanted his peers to understand that it wasn't just grand accomplishments that mattered, but also the small acts of care and determination that could create extraordinary impacts. Jordan began his presentation by recounting the story of how he met Diego, omitting specific medical details about Carlos, but explaining how a determined child had transformed his understanding of what it truly meant to help others. He recounted how Diego had exhibited courage, intelligence, and perseverance that surpassed that of many adults, and how this experience had imparted invaluable lessons to Jordan about gratitude, family, and authentic human connection. The children listened with rapt attention as Jordan explained that every person in the room possessed the power to positively impact the lives of others, not through fame or wealth, but through kindness, resolve, and genuine concern. He shared anecdotes from his own childhood about individuals who had aided him along the way, teachers who believed in him when others doubted, and how small gestures of encouragement had made monumental differences at pivotal junctures in his life. Jordan emphasized that true heroes were not necessarily celebrated figures, but rather anyone who chose to leverage their abilities to assist others, precisely as Diego had done when he decided to express gratitude for his father's saved life. "Children, I want you to grasp something profoundly important. You don't need to be famous or wealthy to be heroes," Jordan stated, gesturing towards the attentive audience. "Diego proved to me that sometimes children can teach adults the most crucial lessons about courage and gratitude." During the subsequent Q&A session, Jordan was profoundly impressed by the caliber and depth of the questions posed by the school students, revealing that growing up on the South Side had imbued these children with a mature perspective on life's challenges and the significance of community and mutual support. An 8-year-old girl inquired how Jordan had learned not to yield when circumstances grew difficult, leading to a discussion on resilience and how to transmute setbacks into learning opportunities. A 9-year-old boy questioned whether Jordan had ever felt an apprehension of inadequacy, opening the floor for Jordan to share his own vulnerabilities and how he had learned that everyone, even accomplished individuals, grapples with self-doubt and apprehension. Diego posed the final question of the session, inquiring how Jordan intended to utilize the lessons gleaned from their friendship to assist other families in the future. Jordan responded by explaining that Diego had inspired him to engage more directly with the families his foundation supported, getting to know them personally rather than maintaining an administrative distance. He announced that he was establishing a new program through which he would regularly visit families benefiting from his foundation, participate in medical recovery celebrations, and cultivate genuine relationships with the individuals whose lives his philanthropy touched. The announcement was met with enthusiastic applause from the entire audience. But Jordan knew that the most profound message had come from Diego, who had demonstrated through his actions that true gratitude necessitates personal connection and the fortitude to express authentic emotions. "Diego, Your question made me realize that my philanthropic endeavors were only just beginning to achieve the profound impact they were always meant to, Jordan said, looking directly at the boy. You've taught me that helping people isn't about writing checks, but about forging relationships that are mutually transformative. Following the formal presentation, Jordan spent an additional 2 hours at the school, visiting individual classrooms where he engaged with small groups of students and had more intimate conversations about his personal and professional experiences. In Diego's classroom, Jordan perused art projects the children had created specifically for his visit, including drawings of their own family heroes and stories about individuals in their lives who had exemplified courage and kindness. Diego had curated a special exhibition of his own drawings of Jordan, including the originals he had left at the Highland Park mansion, alongside new works documenting their burgeoning friendship and the lessons he had learned about perseverance and gratitude. Jordan was deeply moved to see how his story had inspired other children to reflect on significant individuals in their own lives, creating a ripple effect of appreciation and acknowledgement that spread throughout the school community. During an activity where the children drew their own family superheroes, Jordan participated by creating a drawing of Diego as a super gratitude detective who used art and determination to connect people and spread kindness throughout the world. Diego's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, remarked that she had never seen her students so engaged in discussions about values and personal character, crediting Jordan's presence, and especially Diego's example, as catalysts for profound conversations about what truly matters in life. Jordan realized that his visit was creating an impact that would extend far beyond this particular day, inspiring children to value gratitude, perseverance, and community connection in ways that could influence their choices and attitudes for years to come. Mrs. Rodriguez, I can see that you are cultivating extraordinary citizens here at this school, Jordan remarked, observing the respectful and thoughtful interactions among the students. Diego is an embodiment of the exceptional upbringing and values you are instilling in these children. Lunch in the school cafeteria afforded Jordan a singular opportunity to gain insight into Diego's quotidian existence and to better grasp the environment wherein the boy was growing and developing his extraordinary personality. Jordan joined Diego and his 5 closest friends at their table. Partaking of the same simple yet nourishing fare, the children received daily and engaging in conversations that unveiled the social dynamics and challenges these children navigated in their daily lives. He listened to stories of working-class families striving to provide opportunities for their children, of the aspirations these children held for their futures, and of how they mutually supported each other through hardships that many children from more privileged backgrounds would never encounter. Diego acted as a cultural interpreter, elucidating facets of Southside life Jordan had not fully grasped, including how the Latino community coalesced to support families in crisis and how traditional values of respect, diligence, and familial loyalty were transmitted across generations. Jordan was struck by the maturity and perspective evinced by all the children at the table, realizing that adversity had forged wisdom and compassion that rivaled those of much older adults. The conversation also brought to light how Diego's story of meeting Jordan had permeated the school and community, inspiring other children to cherish education, perseverance, and the prospect that dreams could indeed materialize through diligent effort and unwavering determination. Jordan understood that his presence at the school was validating not only Diego's endeavors, but also the aspirations of hundreds of other children who needed tangible examples that individuals from similar backgrounds could achieve extraordinary success. Diego, your friends are as exceptional as you are, Jordan remarked, observing how the group of children interacted with kindness and mutual support. I can see that you are cultivating a community here that values the most salient aspects of life. Throughout the afternoon, Jordan participated in recreational activities in the schoolyard, engaging in a game of basketball with the children on an outdoor court that had been freshly repainted specifically for his visit. Diego organized mixed-age teams where children of varying ages played together, demonstrating leadership abilities that impressed Jordan and affirmed his perception that the boy possessed exceptional qualities extending far beyond academic intelligence. Jordan taught fundamental basketball skills, but more importantly, He leveraged the game as an opportunity to reinforce lessons on teamwork, fair play, and how to navigate both success and disappointment with grace and dignity. The children responded with an infectious enthusiasm, and Jordan found himself genuinely reveling in a level of pure joy he hadn't experienced since his own childhood days playing on neighborhood courts. Diego played with a confidence that had clearly grown significantly since their initial encounter, and Jordan could discern that the boy was applying lessons on perseverance and self-reliance they had discussed during their prior meetings. During breaks between games, children would approach Jordan. On this quiet evening in Highland Park, Michael Jordan stands in his private office, gazing at the wall where Diego Rodriguez's original drawings are framed in golden mounts, each illuminated by special lights that accentuate the vibrant colors and innocent strokes that forever altered his life. At 62 years of age, Jordan now comprehends that all his achievements on the basketball courts, the 6 National Basketball Association championships, the 5 Most Valuable Player awards, the seemingly unattainable records, were merely a prelude to this phase of his life where he truly learned what it means to be a champion. Diego, now established as a cherished friend of Jordan, continues to visit him monthly, consistently bringing new drawings that chronicle his unique perspective on gratitude and hope. The boy, who once traversed the dark streets of Chicago, propelled solely by pure gratitude, now inspires Jordan to maintain genuine connections with all the families his foundation assists, proving that a determined child can teach even the most accomplished individuals the true essence of courage. Carlos Rodriguez operates daily, acutely aware that every additional moment with his family is a direct gift stemming from Jordan's generosity, and he often accompanies Diego on his visits, invariably impressing upon everyone that medical miracles are merely the genesis of lifelong transformations. The Michael Jordan Foundation has undergone a complete metamorphosis, forsaking its previous distant administrative model to embrace a personal approach that directly links Jordan with every family he assists. He now knows by name every child whose parents underwent life-saving surgeries, attending graduations, birthdays, and family celebrations that signify not merely medical recoveries, but profound rebirths of hope and gratitude. Patricia Williams has documented over 200 families Jordan has personally met, each bearing narratives of transformation that unequivocally demonstrate that true philanthropy blossoms when hearts genuinely connect, not simply when checks are dispersed. Yet perhaps the most profound transformation has transpired within Jordan himself. The man who once epitomized excellence through victories and trophies now understands that his most significant accomplishment was allowing a 7-year-old child to impart lessons on courage, gratitude, and the transformative power of authentic human connection. Each morning, when Jordan awakens in his silent mansion in Highland Park, he recollects 3:37 a.m. not as an hour that disturbed his slumber, but as the daily juncture when a family celebrated its reunion. Jordan's doorbell has never again rung mysteriously at 3:37 a.m., but he holds that sacred hour in his memory as a reminder that life's most profound miracles often arrive disguised as minor enigmas, delivered by improbable messengers who instruct us that true gratitude necessitates the courage to dismantle barriers and forge bridges between disparate worlds. Diego frequently inquires of Jordan about his glory days in basketball, but invariably concludes these conversations by stating his preference to hear about the families Jordan is currently assisting, because these victories count forever, not just during a game. From the profound insights of a wise child, Jordan unearthed his ultimate definition of greatness. It is not predicated on the accolades one garners, but rather on the lives one profoundly touches, not on the records one establishes, but on the hearts one genuinely connects with. Not on the renown one acquires, but on the love one disseminates. Today, when queried about his paramount accomplishment, Michael Jordan abstains from mentioning basketball. Instead, he recounts the tale of a courageous young boy who imparted to him the invaluable lesson that true champions are those who leverage their inherent strength to uplift others, and that life's most coveted trophy is the profound realization that one's existence has made a tangible, positive impact upon the world. One family at a time, one drawing at a time, one act of gratitude at a time. Enjoyed the story of Michael Jordan and Diego Rodriguez? Then subscribe to the channel, hit that like button and don't miss the next video that's already waiting for you on screen. See you there. Oh, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what you thought of the end of this story.